We shall continue with the nuclear and particle physics. We shall be discussing about semiconductor detector and p-n junction detector. These detectors are for detecting the radiation like alpha, beta, gamma radiation. So we have been discussing about the different types of detectors. Now we will talk about semiconductor detectors. Before you go to semiconductor, we have got conductor like metals, and we have got non-conductors like glass or wood. Semiconductor is in between the two, so you can have some conduction intermediate between the metal and maybe non-conducting dielectric. Now in semiconductor we have got intrinsic semiconductor and extrinsic semiconductor. Intrinsic is by nature what it is. So here we have germanium is an example of a semiconductor, germanium. And here germanium is a crystal. So you got germanium here, here germanium. We got germanium everywhere. So we are just showing one of them surrounded by 4. Why it is surrounded by 4? Germanium has got valency 4. So the last in the atom, the last valence shell will be having 4 electrons. Therefore, that can accommodate 4 more electrons. This is called covalent bonding. Electron will be bonded together. So we have got the germanium. This has got 4 electrons. See 1, 2, 3, 4 surrounded by 4 electrons. That is covalent bonding. It is bonded with another germanium which has got 4 electrons. So these 2 electrons are bonded together. Similarly, here we have covalent bond. Here we have covalent bond. Here covalent bond. So it is surrounded. This germanium is surrounded by 4 germanium, and it is intrinsic. It is not having any positive charge or negative charge. It is not having any extra electron. If it is having extra electron, it will be N type, that is negative. If it is having deficiency of electron, it is P type. Now we will just go to what is extrinsic. So in extrinsic semiconductor, we have got what is called N type semiconductor or P type semiconductor. When you say extrinsic, we are going to dope something, that is add something. See, in the earlier picture we had this one as germanium. Now we are replacing with As. So we are replacing by that. Now this As is actually, it is pentavalent. Valency is 4. Whereas Ar is having valency 5. So what will happen? We are taking a germanium crystal and we are knocking one germanium and putting Ar into that. So that's called doping, adding something. So that germanium will be knocked out, instead this As comes into the picture. Now it will take that location where germanium was located, and here it has got 4 electron. Instead of 4 electron, it will have 1 extra electron. See, the 4 electrons will be bonded by the neighboring germanium. There is 1 extra electron, that is called extra electron here. Now here, suppose you got a germanium, pure germanium, that is called intrinsic germanium. We are adding As. Maybe of the 1 lakh germanium, some 10,000 As is put. Then we will have 10,000 electrons. 10,000 electron. So that extra electron. Therefore, the semiconductor as such, it has become a N-type semiconductor. So this is because of the extra electron. So it has got to become a N-type semiconductor. Now, how do you get a P-type semiconductor? So for P-type semiconductor, the germanium, pure germanium crystal is taken, and we are going to knock out one or two germanium and put some element which is having trivalent, valency 3. Boron is an example. Boron has got valency 3. So it has got 3 electron. So it will be bonded there, and there is a hole. There is a vacancy there. There is a hole. Therefore, absence of electron is a positive charge. So that hole is a positive charge. So that's what you written here as hole. It has a hole which is a positive charge. So as a result, what we say is, if you take pure germanium, it is neither positive or negative. If you dope it, it can become P-type or N-type. So if you germanium is valency 4. If you put valency 5 into that, it will become extra electron. It will be N-type. So if you put germanium is valency 4, if you put like boron, any trivalent, in that case there is a shortage of electron, therefore it becomes a P-type hole. So this is the overall with the diagram we have explained. Now we will just put it in words. So the PN junction detector, so the pure germanium Ge has valency 4. What we have seen in picture we are putting in words. Valency 4, that is tetravalent. Now when Ge is doped with boron B, which has valency 3 trivalent, it is doped with valency 3 trivalent. What will happen is what we have seen in the diagram, holes are created in the crystal, so it becomes a p-type. Holes are created, that is vacancy for electron. So when the absence of electron causes positive charge, we call it as a hole. Absence of electron is called as a hole. We get a p-type. So as a rule we can take Ge plus B, germanium plus Be doping, we get p-type semiconductor. Now here we take germanium and you don't dope anything, it will become it is neither positive or negative. So when you dope it with B, it becomes p-type. The amount of doping makes it more and more p-type, more and more positive charge. So it all depends on how much you are doping. If you are doping little, it will have p-type. If you are doping too much, then it will become like a conductor. It will not serve the purpose. So here doping is done at a small level. We get a p-type semiconductor. So germanium is doped with arsenic As, which has valency 5. Then it becomes a pentavalent. Now this extra electrons are present in the crystal. It becomes n-type because it is pentavalent, 5 valence, valency 5. So we get this n-type we get. So Ge plus As doping gives you n-type semiconductor. Now not only this boron, we can select some other trivalent material also, element, and here also instead of As we can select some other pentavalent. Just as an example we are given germanium and Ge and B. Similarly instead of germanium we can even choose silicon. We call it a Silicon Valley electronics. So for semiconductor we either use germanium or silicon, and whether there are other materials also. So we have just given as example. So we have just discussed about what is intrinsic semiconductor, what is p-type and n-type. Now when they are held together, p-type and n-type are held together, pasted together, what will happen? We get PN junction diode, that is a junction formed. So here we will just give a better explanation. This is the p-type material. In a p-type material it will have a lot of holes, that is positive charge. Whereas in the n-type material, already we discussed, it will have a lot of electrons, it will have extra electron. So it becomes n-type. Now when you bring them closer and stick them together, what will happen is, just imagine this n-type electrons will get attracted towards this positive, and therefore they will cross the barrier. See, the n-type has crossed the barrier and it's come here. Similarly, this proton will be attracted towards this large number of electrons there. So they will cross the barrier and stay there. And why it is staying there? At one position what will happen is, for example, this positive charge which has crossed, it will be attracted by this negative and it will be attracted by this negative. Therefore, they will take a equilibrium position. Similarly, the electrons which have crossed, it will be attracted by this positive and it will be attracted by this positive. Therefore, they will take an equilibrium position. So it will depend on what is the Coulomb force pulling this electron. This electron will be pulled by these holes, and this electron will be pulled by these positive charges which are very close. Therefore, it will take an equilibrium position. So this will cross over and then stay there. So as a result, it is called some potential is created. Potential, it's like acting like a battery, like a small battery it is acting. Positive and negative we get. So that is called barrier, because this is the p-type and this is the n-type. The barrier is this, so it's called barrier potential. And this region is called depletion region, like crossing the LOC, crossing the line of control. So we have got a line there, barrier. This is crossing, so it is a crossing. This will cross here, this will cross here, and it will take a region. So it's called that there will be form a layer. That's a depletion layer. So this is what we get. Now we will see what way this is going to be used. This is the basic of digital electronics. Any electronics, any electronic device, this is the basic. Therefore, we will just see we have formed a extrinsic semiconductor, put them together, we get a diode. Now we will just go further. What we have explained in diagram, we have just put it in words. So the P has majority positive carriers, the P type, and the N type region has got majority electrons. The charges cross over at the junction. Already we discussed, at the junction they will cross over due to Coulomb attraction. So it will be attracted towards that layer and it goes there and form a depletion layer. We already said about the depletion layer. The depletion layer has barrier potential VB. So it has got a potential like a small battery V suffix B, that is called barrier potential. See, any cell that you take battery, you take 1.5 volt. Now here this is acting like a small battery, but voltage is only 0.7 volt. So the VB equal to 0.7 volt for germanium. So once you make a semiconductor diode, automatically it becomes a small battery with 0.7 volt capacity voltage. So if P is connected to positive and N is connected to negative of the battery, it is, we call it as forward bias. It is forward bias. P to P, N to N, that is P to positive, N to negative. This is called forward bias. In forward bias, that is FB, in forward bias current is large when applied voltage is greater than VB. So here already in the diagram we have seen, see this is like a small battery. Here this is, one side is negative and positive we get. So this is P. So here this we are connecting this P to positive, this N to negative. So there will be large number of positive majority, this is called majority carrier. All will go in this towards this negative of the battery. All this negative electrons will move towards positive of the battery. So large current will be produced, large current will be produced. But before it goes, this is the reverse voltage we get. See here minus and plus in the opposite direction. Therefore, we have to supply a voltage exceeding VB. Only when it exceeds VB, current will go. Otherwise, current cannot flow because it has to overcome this potential VB. So this VB is 0.7 volt we said. So when it exceeds that, there will be a large current flowing. P, all the holes will be moving towards the negative of the battery. All the electrons will be moving towards positive of the battery. In forward bias, the current is large when applied voltage is greater than VB. In reverse bias, the current is very small. In the reverse bias, it will be in microamps. It will be very small. Why it is small? Because only the minority currents will be producing the current, minority carriers. So already we stated in the depletion region, we have got minus in the positive region, that is called minority. So we will just go back to the diagram to just explain. So here this is P type, all the holes here, these are called majority carriers, and here we have got a small number of negative charges, these are called minority carriers. Similarly here we have got large number of electrons, they are majority carriers, and here this small positive charges that we get here, they are called minority carriers. In the P type we get electrons as minority, and in the N type we get positive holes as minority. Minority is, the doping is very small, therefore the current will be very small. So in reverse bias, current is very small, that will be in microamps. Now we will go back. Our aim is how it is going to work as a detector. So when radiation falls on depletion region, electron hole dissociate and ions are produced. So already we have got that electron hole, that is in the depletion region, we have already seen in the diagram, positive and electron holes are there in the closed region. When a radiation falls, they break up. So the positive will be attracted towards the negative of the battery, and the holes will be attracted towards negative of the battery, and the electrons will be attracted towards positive of the battery. So they will produce pair, they dissociate and the ions are produced. These ions move towards the respective terminals and they will cause a pulse of current. This current will be in milliamps. it is kept in reverse bias. When it is in reverse bias, current will be in microamps. Already we discussed. It will be in microamps. Current will be microamps. When a radiation falls, the current will go to milliamps. So 1000 times. The current will increase 1000 times. From microamp, it will go to milliamps. So these ions move towards their respective terminals and cause a pulse of current. So when the radiation falls, we get a pulse of current. In reverse bias, without radiation, the current will be like microamps. And it will jump to milliamp. The current will jump to milliamp due to radiation. So microamp and milliamp, in our scale it's all small only. But microamp to milliamp is 1000 times. So that can be amplified and checked up. So that will be a very good detection of radiation. Thus reverse bias is ideal for radiation detection. Now for germanium, VB equal to 0.7 volt. And so about 1 EV is required. Suppose I get a radiation, this is 0.7. So if it is less than 0.7 EV, it will not trigger. It will not trigger any say pulse. If it is exceeding 1 EV, roughly I am telling, instead of 0.7, we can take it as 1 EV or 0.7 EV or about 1 EV is required for creating electron hole pair. Only then electron holes will be separated, pulse will be produced. Naturally, in the alpha, beta, gamma nuclear radiations, all of them are in MeV. Therefore, definitely once the radiation falls, it will give a pair of electron hole pair, which will give a current pulse. If suppose I take the nuclear radiation is 1 MeV. Now what we require is for one electron hole pair, we require about 1 EV. 1 EV is the energy required. But here the radiation is 1 MeV. MeV is million electron volt. Therefore, we get 10 power 6 pair. That is 10 power 6 is billion. So for this M, 10 power 6. So we get 10 power 6 pairs produced. So it will give a large current flowing in the diode. When a radiation falls, we get a current. So the current is very large. So we get large current pulse. So the idea is, without radiation, it will be in microamps. When a radiation falls on it, it will go to milliamps. Milliamps is only when it is a 1 EV we are talking about. But here we get large number of pairs produced. So the current pulse will be larger. Now here solid state, because it is in solid state level, full energy is absorbed. Now when I say full energy, we need to just go back what we have already studied. So we have been studying about different types of detectors, where we get gas detector, and then we had liquid detectors. We need not go into detail. Gas detector, where the detector is in a gas. So the radiation falls and it may not be stopped. It will go out because the gas cannot absorb. If it is a liquid, better absorption. We get liquid. Like we studied Wilson's cloud chamber, all that. So we need not go into detail. So if the material is liquid, the detector is a liquid, to some extent it will go. It has to be big. To some extent go. Now here it is a solid state. It's a solid state device. Therefore, once the particle comes, it will get totally stopped. Therefore, once it is totally stopped, full energy is absorbed. Therefore, we will be able to find out what is the energy. If it is a liquid or a gas, the particle will come, give some energy to the system, and some energy, with some energy it will leave the system. Therefore, we do not know what energy left the system. But here in the solid state, full energy is, the particle is stopped inside the device. Therefore, full energy is absorbed. Therefore, what will happen is, it is suitable for energy analysis. For the energy analysis, we can find out what is the total energy that is given out in the system. In cosmic radiation analysis, these type of detectors are useful, because the total energy in cosmic radiation, the energies will be very large, like in GeV. Therefore, this solid state devices will be able to absorb, give us the full energy detail. And also it is compact and fast. It is compact because if it is a gas detector, we have to have a bulk of gas. If it is a liquid, maybe to some extent bulk. If it is solid, it's a very semiconductor diodes are very small. Therefore, it is compact. And also we say fast. Why it is fast? When you go to the liquid chamber, cloud chamber, Wilson's, all that, there if it is their ions are produced and it has to come back to the original temperature. The liquid also, it has to, the boiling point, it will go to boiling point, it has to come down. So it will take some time it will take. Whereas this one, it is fast because the electron holes are produced and immediately the current is produced in that. So now we shall discuss about the detectors used at LHC. LHC is a large hadron collider, which is CERN. What is that CERN? We got the European Center for Nuclear Research, and in 2013 we have been discussing in detail in newspapers. It all came like that large hadron collider was able to detect what is called Higgs boson. And why it is called hadron? Hadron is a particle of high energy. And how is that high energy attained? The particle moves through a distance of 27 kilometers. So it's like we have got a linear accelerator, which is maybe in the lab size. But here it is from one country to another, it is a country border, 27 kilometer distance it travels. Therefore, the energy is very large. That's why we call it as a large hadron collider. Now for this, what are the types of detectors used? And before that, why was this experiment done? Just curiosity. They want to smash the proton and proton to be smashed and see what happens. It is just curiosity. If we take an atom, maybe if we take one atom, I want to break the atom, see what happens. If we take sodium chloride, break it, we get sodium and chlorine. That's what, by anxiety, curiosity, people did that. Sodium plus NaCl minus we get. Similarly, if you break a nucleus, we get fission energy occurring. Now they want to smash the proton, break the proton and see what happens. For this, very large energy is required. That is what done at LHC, that large hadron collider, just for curiosity. So the experiment what they did, it is a proton-proton collision. The two proton collided and they traveled a distance of 27 kilometer, and after large acceleration they collided. So they did proton-proton collision and also proton-lead collision. Proton and lead also collide. This is the experiment they did. And the collision lasts for a short duration. So once it collides, large energy is produced, but for a very short duration. Now for this, we require some specific detectors. So what are the detectors? We have been discussing about the different types of detectors. Now we will just outline what are the detectors used at LHC. So the types of detectors, they are each for certain purpose, and what we call is for different purpose, different detectors. Vertex detector, that is the innermost layer where the collision occurs. There, the innermost layer, we call it as vertex detector. The aim of that is to follow the path of the particle, the proton which is colliding, after that where it goes. So they want to see the path of that because it vanishes in a short duration. So to follow the path of the particle, to study the decay and lifespan. Maybe it will be very short duration. How it decays, the proton decays by what? Maybe it gives mesons or whatever. We will just see, and how long it is existing, lifespan. So that is a vertex detector. Then we have got what is called tracking chamber. So as the particle is coming, we have to track it. It is a charged particle, proton. So we have to track it. So use magnetic field. Already we know magnetic field will bend the particle. So we are using magnetic field, they were able to track that so that it will be able to bend. The tracking chamber studies the curvature of path of charged particles. So what is the curvature? Suppose the particle is of very large energy, curvature will be small. So from that we can calculate the momentum. Momentum can be calculated. If it is highly energetic, less curvature. That is truly. If it is a very large energy, you can't easily bend it. So we have to, from that we will know what is the energy of the particle, because from the simple relation we get mv squared by r is equal to bqv. This is Lorentz force and this is the centrifugal force. We equate centrifugal force for bending, centrifugal or centripetal, that is equal to bqv, magnetic field that is used. charge of the particle velocity. So if you simplify that, we get mv equal to bqr. So when the momentum is large, r is also large, which means the radius of curvature is small. So from that they were able to find out the energy of the particles, and then we got trackers to measure the position of the particle along its 27 kilometer. So we call as trackers. Then they have what is called Cherenkov radiation. What is that Cherenkov radiation? So when a particle it's able to move with a velocity greater than velocity of light in that particular medium. See, the velocity of light is 3 into 10 power 8. In a particular medium, it will reduce. It will go to maybe 2 into 10 power 8. Now suppose our radiation, like this proton that comes out, if it is having velocity more than velocity of light in that medium, then we get a radiation that's called Cherenkov radiation. So the mu equal to C by V, that is refractive index. Mu equal to 1.5, then V will be 2 into 10 power 8. If the particle exceeds this velocity, we get Cherenkov radiation. So they were able to observe Cherenkov radiation also in the LHC experiments. And then we got calorimeter experiment, that is for finding out the temperature rise. From the temperature rise, we will be able to find it, because from the energy relation E equal to ms theta. So from that we will be able to see what is the temperature rise. And this will be the last detector, because it has to absorb the particle and show the increase in energy. And then generally computers used for analyzing the data to find out the mass, energy, everything. And what is the outcome? Because it's only we are giving an outline. The outcome is Higgs boson was detected in 2013. Higgs got Nobel Prize for this. And more about Higgs boson we'll be discussing in the under elementary particles. Now we will give a summary. So we have discussed the construction of N-type and P-type semiconductors. We have discussed in detail, and the construction of PN diode and the barrier potential, that also we have just explained. At the end of all types of detectors, we have discussed the detectors used in LHC. That is a very popular and current subject, and we have just discussed. And for further details, the LHC experiments are going on. Even today, experiments are going on, and India is also a part of that group team which is working. So we will be able to get more information in coming years. So we will just put a few questions for the day. So explain what are intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductors. Already we have been discussing that. And how are they formed? So that we have to talk about doping. And explain the forward and reverse bias characteristics of PN diode. When you say characteristics, suppose I draw a graph, I will be getting in the reverse bias current will be in microamps. In the forward bias it will be in milliamps. Therefore we can show the ranges, one is in milliamps, the other one is microamps, and we can discuss about the utility. So we will be discussing about the types of detectors which have been used in CERN experiments. This LHC, Large Hadron Detector, that will be the concluding part of the for the detectors. So thank you.